What's up, guys? This is Jesse DeRozier with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service here on Lake Guntersville. This is week number 15 of my new series entitled What's on the Deck. This week we've had water temperatures continue to climb. The water temps as of today were about 53 out on the main lake, mid-lake area. As the creeks continue to get warmer, the further you go back, as well as probably upriver section, I would imagine as well, it's going to be a little bit warmer. But just to kind of give you an idea of what the water temps are. As far as baits this week, let's go ahead and get started. So the Alabama rig continues to produce, and it is putting both quantity as well as size in the boat, and it is absolutely getting chewed. And if you look at that jig right there, I mean, the teeth marks on that, but you notice it's not going nowhere. Those are salt impregnated baits. They tear up really easy, especially when they've been in the water for a little while. So if you've been fishing with those for 20, 30, 40 minutes, they start to get pretty soft as that salt starts to dissolve, and they will absolutely get ripped off. So taking a little bit of glue, that's the Avid Angler Solutions fishing glue, putting that on there, making sure that those baits are secured will make a big difference as to how long they stay on there and not having to constantly replace them. So for the cost of a drop of glue, you can save yourself the cost of a bag of baits. Doing the same with a jig head minnow, which is bait number 2 this week. A couple of things that I would highly recommend when using a jig head minnow. Number 1 is going to be a loop knot. You need that thing to be able to sway freely, and that ducket sway head, if you notice, that head has a curve that goes right around the nose of that soft plastic. Again, it's a perfect place to be able to put that glue to make sure that that stays on. Now, the other thing that I do to make sure that that bait stays on is 2 other things. 1, that ducket sway head comes with 2 metal prongs as the bait keeper, same as it does like on your jackhammer. To me, those prongs on the sway head are just a hair too long. They actually tear the bait quite a bit when you're trying to put it on. So taking a pair of angle cutters and snipping the prong both on top and bottom in half. They're about an 1/8 inch long. Cut them down to about a 1/16. The last thing is as you're pushing the plastic up, once you get it around the bend of the hook, you get it up to that, don't just push it straight on. If you do that, it's going to tear a trough straight where it's supposed to grab, and then it allows for it just to be pulled right back out that much easier. So get it up there close, and then roll the plastic about 90 degrees. Push it on, and then roll it back up straight where it's supposed to be. So now it tore that groove through an area it doesn't matter. Now where those prongs are actually set where they're supposed to be, that's all fresh plastic. It hasn't had a tear through it. So then add your dot of glue, push it up, let it harden, and you're good to go. But that will make a big difference as to how many fish you catch on one bait. Now, literally, I can fish the same one until it gets ripped down the sides of the hook and it just barely hanging on. A lot of these especially jig head minnows have gotten really expensive. I mean, we're talking like $10, $12 a bag. So instead of catching 1 or 2 fish per bait, now you can catch, I've caught literally 25, 30 fish off of one bait before it gets just mauled to pieces where it just won't hang on any longer. Even if it's torn down the side, I've even taken the glue, put it on the plastic, held it together until it hardened up, and then go right back to fishing with it. I've had questions as to whether or not, there's a scent or anything like that the fish would be repelled by. If there is, I haven't seen it. I've not had any issues at all getting bit with that glue. Let's see, bait number 3 this week was an Underspin, and this week I went with the producer Swimbaits Swiminator. That's the 3.5 Swiminator in that blue minnow color. And the reason why is, again, as the water temperature gets a little bit warmer, a little bit more action, right? So The Reaction Innovations, earlier I was throwing it when the water temp was really, really cold. It had a very subtle tail kick. This one has a little bit more tail kick to it. So again, kind of keeping up with, as the water warms, what presentations or what the fish are looking for as far as speed and kick will make a difference as to how many bites you're getting. The last deep water bait that we threw this week was a jerkbait, and we saw this again today, that with the amount of fishing pressure that we've had over the last couple of days with the tournaments, the fish would not fire on one that was making a lot of noise. So went with silent versions. Also, we had cloudy, overcast skies, so got away from anything that was flashy and went with opaque or painted sides. And those two things made a big difference as to whether or not we were getting bit. I picked this up and fired it out there in the very first cast, put a 4-pounder in the boat, and it was like unbelievable, the reaction that we got off of that just as soon as it hit the water. I mean, they were on it right away, whereas they were shying away from the jig head minnow and the Alabama rig. Threw that in there and they instantly reacted to it. So something that they're not seeing many of. Everybody's throwing the jig head minnow, everybody's throwing an Alabama rig. Fewer and fewer people are throwing that jerkbait right now. So that is something that will get you some extra bites. Adding a scent to your baits as well, it's going to get you more bites. We've been utilizing Thump Gel, putting that on there, allowing for it to kind of disperse in the water as these fish come up behind your bait and they're trailing it. It could be a hard bait, it could be a soft bait, it doesn't matter. If you're wanting them to get an extra sense of whether or not this is real and that it's something that they can eat, adding a scent or attractant will help make a difference. But Thump Gel has continued to put extra fish in the boat for us. We're literally watching them in the early mornings. I usually start to kind of get a read on the fish's activity. Start without it. I kind of see, are they aggressive? Are they feeding? If they are just running up behind the bait and just tailing behind it and won't commit, instantly pull out the Thump Gel and start using it. And it's like triggering a light switch. I mean, it's unbelievable the reactions that we'll get. They'll get up behind it and they'll follow it, and it's like they get into that scent trail, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, that's real, I'm gonna run up there and eat it. And think about us, if we're sitting at sitting in a parking lot of a restaurant and the wind blows, you know, across us and we smell that good smelling food, it ain't long before we're in there eating. So it does help. The shallow flats, or shallow fish, I should say. This week we attacked with basically 3 different styles of baits. The first one is, of course, your typical pre-spawn grass fishing lure, which is going to be chatterbait. The 2 profiles that I'm throwing, one is a shad profile, the other, of course, is a craw pattern. So the shad pattern I am running where I'm seeing a lot of bait fish activity. Of course, everybody's throwing the red. So if I'm seeing a lot of bait fish activity and seeing them feed on bait fish, it makes more sense to throw the bait fish just due to the fact that they're seeing so many of the red. A lot of times they'll let it go by. If I'm not seeing any bait fish, then of course I'm going to go with the red. So again, fire craw with the freeloader fire craw trailer. It's a really good match for it. It's got really great action. I love those straight tail trailers. 95% of the time I'm throwing that straight tail profile on my chatterbaits. One that I'm not throwing yet, but I will be very soon, is going to be a Producer Swimbaits pintail shad on just a chatterbait without a skirt, and I'll be throwing it. We're starting to see a lot of these gizzard shad up and around the grass flats, and as the bigger fish start to move up quite a bit into the shallow flats, we're starting to see that now. So probably next week you'll probably start to see that on my deck. It's going to be just like a basic chatterbait head without a skirt with that pintail shad on there. We'll be throwing that around these areas that we're seeing a lot of the gizzard shad in. Next is the second standard for fishing a grass lake in the pre-spawn, which is going to be a lipless. And I ran 2 different sizes, same weight, but 2 different size profiles this week. One is a 3/4 ounce profile. Again, looking for something different. Everybody's throwing primarily a 1/2 ounce. So the 1/2 ounce has a standard size to it. Going a little bit larger kind of gets away from what everybody else is doing. Again, sticking with that same red theme, but something that's just a hair different. As well as a lot of people are throwing 1-knockers, and everybody's gotten away from throwing the old, BB style. The Uruku shad is a BB style. So looking for something just a little different. I try not to run the same mainstream as what everybody else is doing. Again, that 5/8 ounce. This time it is in the 1/2 ounce profile, but again, the weight is a little bit different. It's got a little bit faster fall. It allows for you to work the grass flats and stay in contact with the grass a little bit easier without having to kind of slow down, so you can rip it up and get back to the grass a little bit faster. But that is the Quake 70 from 6 cents, and again, a BB style. So a couple of things there to kind of be a little bit different, 5/8 ounce and running the BBs. The next one is getting the change, so 5/8 ounce, 1/2 ounce profile, Quake 70 again, but this time it was the color that was different. We had some water get churned up due to high winds earlier in the week. We had 20+ mile-an-hour winds on Wednesday and Thursday, and as such, the water got churned, got a little bit more, kind of a medium stain to it, and so I went more with a blaze orange to go with something a little bit brighter, and the fish definitely reacted to that. That made a big difference in helping to get some of those finickier fish to go ahead and bite. The last lure this week was something that I decided to throw just due to the fact that it was a little bit different. It's a little bit early side of it, which is a full standard Squarebill. So the water temps are just starting to get up into the 50s, the mid 50s, and it's kind of on the early side for that wider action. However, we're ripping the lures and whatnot. That has a fast action. They're reacting to that. But the reason why I went to this is we've been throwing flat sides for so long. They're seeing a lot of that flat-sided action. So I wanted something with the amount of fishing pressure that we had that had a little bit different action. Again, same kind of color profile that we know that they're willing to react to, but the kick is just a little bit different. Again, silent. So they're seeing and hearing so many of these noisy baits that shying away from that and going with something that's a little bit quieter can definitely get you a few more fish in the boat throughout the course of the day. But guys, that's basically it this week. That was our lineup for the week, and I hope this information helps you out in catching some fish this week. Hopefully see you out on the water at some point, and until next week, tight lines.